So I'm delighted to be joined by Olly Craughan, Head of CSR for DPD. Olly, would you like to give yourself a more formal introduction and introduce us a bit to DPD, obviously a brand we're all familiar with?
Thanks, James. Thank you for inviting me onto this podcast. I'm Olly Craughan, Head of CSR, as you've said. I've been with the business 9 years, come into CSR in the last 12 months, so prior to COVID. Lucky to be promoted into the position and be part of a massive, ambitious strategy to sort of move forward and be leaders in clean, sustainable delivery in the UK. And with the business, it grows double digits every year in volume. We've seen huge growth, obviously, through the lockdown period. We are now seeing over 1 million parcels a day through the operation, and that would have been our peak volumes in previous years. So we're now dealing with that every single day of the week. And we're fast approaching Black Friday now and our peak this year. So on our busiest day, which will be the 2nd of December, the Tuesday after Black Friday, we'll be delivering over 2 million parcels. So huge growth, massive challenge. The growth we've seen this year is what we'd see over a 3-year period. So it's huge, and we have not failed our high service levels in that period. We've coped with that volume. The network have worked tirelessly to really hit those targets, and we have opened 10 sites in the last 6 months. Only 2 of those were actually planned, so we've had to react very quickly to this uplift. And we've recruited over 3,000 drivers since June, ready for this peak period and this growth. So huge movement in the business.
Brilliant. Those are some pretty serious numbers. You're talking about sort of 3x annual growth I picked out in there. That's fairly scary sort of stuff. You obviously mentioned the lockdown, etc., and that's had an impact. And maybe we'll come on to focus on that a little bit more later in the interview. But the first thing I want to talk to you about is your green program. And if you do go to the DPD website, that is something which is obviously you hold very dear as an organisation. There's a fantastic page on all the stuff you're doing in terms of the sustainability aspect. The goal is to be the greenest delivery company on this planet. What are the program's mission? What is the program's mission, and what are the objectives?
So, James, back in February, before coronavirus and the lockdown period and all this craziness, we changed we had a 3-box strategy in our business. It had been the centre of our being in DPD, our DNA, for 12 years. And that was to provide the best service, use the best technology available, and retain, develop the most customer-centric people within the business. And in February, we released a 4th box, a 4th pillar to our strategy, and that was to be the UK's leader in sustainable delivery. And by doing that, that's brought it into the everyday part of our business. Every department, every nook and cranny of the business is involved in this now. It's not just my team, and CSR. It's not just our responsibility. So, with that, you get everyone's buy-in. Everyone is engaged in this strategy, and everyone's part of it. As I previously said, I'd been a depot manager previously, and when we were getting our electric vans delivered, it was amazing to see the behaviour of drivers, knocking on my door, wanting to be the next person to drive one of these vehicles, which is great to see, the enthusiasm and also the engagement from the public when they make a delivery with an electric vehicle, and people just stopping them in the street, asking them about it. It's fantastic to see both the employees and all our staff members, our owner drivers, service partners that deliver for us, and the public being so engaged in the topic.
Tremendous. Now, of course, the programme isn't exclusively EVs, but would you believe that might be our primary focus? So we know you're building the largest, or you may already have the largest all-electric delivery fleet in the UK. I understand you have already hit your 2020 target and exceeded it in terms of 10% of your fleet being zero emission. Can you give us a bit of an overview of the challenges you've had, certainly in terms of, I guess, vehicle availability is a big one, and how you've looked to cope with the challenge of charging those vehicles.
I think, just to highlight that it's not just 10% of fleet, it's 10% of fleet in every depot. So we haven't focused on just the urbanized, easy, locations. We've gone across the board. So it doesn't matter if you're in London, Leeds, or Lincoln, in a very rural environment. So we have achieved that in every part of the business, to the point where actually, to achieve it, we opened our first urban logistics site in Hull, because the depot that services Hull is actually in Goole, which is about 28 miles away from the city. So to do those deliveries on one charge was going to be very, very close to range. So we opened a site there. So all the drivers are there, and we have several feeder vehicles that go in. So actually, we've expanded the amount of electric vehicles that can deliver in that city now. And we're delivering over 600 parcels, zero emissions in that city. So, we've overcome those obstacles. With vehicle availability, predominantly our fleet of 719 vehicles is the Nissan ENV200, which is a small vehicle, but the availability and the cost of it was always easy, and affordable. Luckily, at the start of the year, pre-COVID, we had ordered 100 MAN ETG 3.5-ton vehicles. So the typical diesel vehicle that yourselves will see around the street are Mercedes Sprinter 3.5-ton vehicles. We need that size vehicle in the EV form. So we ordered 100 MANs. They did not even manufacture it right-hand drive. So they had to import them into the UK and change them to right-hand drive for us. Wow. So we have those on fleet now. But in the time since, more 3.5-ton vehicles coming to market. So when they come on board, we trial them. We're trialing the Mercedes E-Sprinter at the moment, the VW E-Crafter, the Maxus Deliver 9, which is the old LDV brand. And these are the size of vehicles that we really need. That's the challenge, because what we don't want, we could buy huge amounts of Nissan ENV200s, but we'd have to have like 2 or 3 times as many vans on the road to deliver the volume that we need to deliver, because it's not just the small packages. In these vehicles need to be flexible, so we can deliver the larger packages, and also be efficient, with that as well. So that's the challenge. What we did originally to hit the 10% was we looked at the low-hanging fruit, the low mileage routes that are in residential areas, that are typically the smaller parcels that can be easily loaded on these vehicles. And that's how we achieved the 10%. But the big challenge now is the bigger vehicle and the charging infrastructure, as you said. In fact, I think our next challenge will be the charging infrastructure, not the availability of these vehicles. What we have done with PodPoint is that we offer our service partners, we call them owner drivers. They lease their vehicle from us or purchase their own, but we will pay for the charge point. So you've got the £350 OLEV grant, and then we typically pay 350 plus towards it as well. If they have off-street parking, obviously, which not all of them do, we will have that. You guys will survey it, install it at their home. It's theirs then. We don't own it. We don't ask for it back if they leave the business for one reason or another. It's theirs to keep. And if they moved house, they could apply for another one and we'd put it on there. That's one of our main sort of ways of incentivizing the transition over to electric. But with that, there are challenges. Places like London, you can't afford, property with off-street parking. And that's where we have to rely on depot charging, but more so public charging access, because a depot will not be able to charge 200, 250 vehicles overnight. It's just not possible. And the logistics of that, as well as the sort of the capacity in space as well, is a massive challenge. So we really need the public charging or more rapid charging, potentially.
Yeah, I think you've given a really good overview of the challenges there. I think in terms of those who can charge overnight at home, obviously that might be classed as the low-hanging fruit to some extent. Then the depots as well. But yeah, the kind of scale you're getting to here, you're sort of pushing the bounds of this, I guess, in many ways. It's also great, I guess, to hear that the availability of the vehicles is starting to come, because certainly in the van space, it's been something that's been a little bit behind the cars, I would say. So I'd like to move this on to talk about your role, I guess, outside DPD immediately. So in terms of, I guess in terms of your own business development, so many businesses are now looking to move towards a more sustainable approach, and you can really help with that in terms of sustainable supply chains, etc., and helping your customers achieve their own sort of environmental and sustainability goals. Do you see that as a key, I guess, a key tool in securing new business?
I think so, James. I think more and more people, companies and the consumers are obviously thinking more about the impact of their purchase. What does that business do to help the environment? Packaging, delivery, etc. We are working with customers. They approach us, and we approach them about definitely circular economy is a big piece. I think that's something that everyone should be looking at. We do actually have an initiative called Relove launching next year. It's working with ASOS at first, and when you get your ASOS delivery, what you'll be able to do through the DPD app is ask to donate. If you've got old clothes, the amount of clothing that goes to landfill is horrendous when you read about it. But you could donate your old clothes to one of 5 charities, and we'll collect it and then send it on to the charity. So it then goes to the charity shop. Obviously, it's all being reused and reloved, but it's also helping charities, because let's face it, in this period especially, charities are suffering massively due to the fact that people aren't able to really, participate in mass events and raise loads of money for them. So, it'd be a great win for us to get that, going next year. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah, indeed. I guess also charity shops, I would have thought, is a destination for a lot of those clothes, but in the current environment, I think it's a lot of those obviously won't be able to open, etc., and we won't be able to get those clothes to them. So that's a really great scheme. When you go onto the DPD Green Programme site, there's an infographic, which is sort of 9 steps. The 9th, I think, is news. So I believe there are sort of 8 elements, as it were, to the Green Programme. One of which is electric vehicles, and obviously we've given that some focus for obvious reasons. But there are quite a few others. Do you have any favourites?
I think the Eco Fund is one of my favourites. All our used shrink wrap in our hubs, instead of being thrown away or just picked up and recycled via our Veolia contract, our waste provider, we bundle it, we sell it on to a company that then breaks it down, creates new shrink wrap. So again, the circular economy piece. But the revenue generated by that, we don't put it back into our own pocket. We put it to one side into our Eco Fund, and through the website, people can apply for a donation of up to £2,000 for a sustainability eco project. We've donated since February over £140,000 to 90 good causes, schools doing anything from like growing vegetables, planting trees, having like an eco warrior team to make children more aware of recycling and all the sort of ecological issues, to community projects and even eco startups. So it's great to see that, especially when you get some feedback. There was a letter sent to Dwayne McDonald, our CEO, from one school, and it was a school that specialised in disabilities and learning behaviours, and they had been trying to get a donation, not just in general, for 4 years. And then we gave them the £2,000, and it's made their day, because they've been able to build the century garden that they were waiting for 4 years. So when you see something like that, it really makes your day. It's something different. It's not about parcels, and it puts a smile on your face, especially obviously in these challenging times as well, that you've really made a difference. So for me, that's massive. But look, they're all the whole website and everything we do is they're like my children. All those objectives. So I'm very passionate about all of them.
Tremendous. Now, you mentioned some of the challenging times, so we're going to focus a little bit on those challenging times. Certainly, it's lockdown time again in the UK as we speak. So, in terms of your own operations, what are the changes that you've seen to your business as a result of the pandemic? Now, the obvious one, I guess, is a growth in scale and the number of things being delivered. But what else is there?
Well, we're very, our people are at our core, and their well-being as well. As soon as the first original lockdown happened, we changed our delivery methods. So it's contactless, obviously no customers touching the PDA unit, delivering, so you have to just open your door slightly, step away, the parcel's put down, we take a photo of it and sign it off. So straight away we put those measures in place. Our resource, we were already not prepped for obviously lockdown, but we look at growth, the way we structure our routes, our drivers and our depots. We have an element of capacity to deal with any uplift, because we deal with that anyway in bank holiday weeks, our peak periods. We have a large uplift for a short period of time, and we need that flex, because our brand, all of our drivers and our staff are brand ambassadors. We don't advertise the business. Our vans and our people do that, and that's so important. So we want to make sure it's DPD that they're wearing on their t-shirt, not typically sometimes third parties don't carry that DNA and that importance of how to do things and doing them the right way. We are more expensive than our competitors to our customers, but they pay that because they expect the highest service, everything that comes with it, the delivery options, the in-flight options. We are in the Waitrose of deliveries. If you want to put it up there in supermarkets, maybe the Waitrose or Marks and Spencer's. We are the premium brand, and that's where we want to stay. And it's our people, it's our people that make the difference. They're the ones delivering to the doorstep. They're the people that you see. You don't see the people sat behind desks, behind a laptop. So yeah, that's the importance, really sort of dealing with those people, having the flexibility and the adaptability of volumes, increases.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those challenges actually, I guess, are similar for Pod Point as well. We're immensely proud of our installer network with the Pod Point experts, as we call them, because those are the people our customers meet. Yeah. Indeed, they don't just show up at their door; they go into your home and start putting wiring in and doing sort of minor building work. So yeah, getting that element of the business right is absolutely sort of common between our two operations. And I want to thank you for getting the contactless signature thing going, because that was the last thing that we couldn't get going in the first lockdown. We indicated, well, DPD can do it. Surely there's a way, and we managed to work with OLEV to get that moving, which is very, very helpful. What would you say, if you had to pick one thing, has been the biggest challenge to DPD from the COVID-19 situation?
That's a tough one. I think. With the second lockdown that's happening, should happen on Thursday, I think the biggest challenge is to come. Look, we were going to see the biggest ever peak period, which is Black Friday through to Christmas Eve, that we'd ever seen. In fact, back in May, we had our busiest ever volume day ever in the history of DPD in May, not at the Christmas period. It eclipsed anything that had happened prior. So I think with the second lockdown now, and people will be moving back even more towards e-commerce, deliveries. I think the biggest challenge is to come. It was going to be tough, dealing with those volumes, and potentially we're going to see even more now. So, we want to have a successful peak, not to let down our customers or the consumers, and we're going to have to work extremely hard to fulfill those objectives, definitely.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I wish you the best with that one. That could be quite challenging. Yeah. So I guess one of the other things we saw, particularly I guess early in the coronavirus lockdown, was an increased commentary on environmental issues. There was a lot of the air quality good, etc., things like that. Do you think that it's a big unknown, I guess. Do you think that will sustain? Do you think we're going to see stronger environmental commitments as a result of this?
I would love to. There's part of me that really, really wants that to happen, but there's also a bit of a cynic in me, James. And politicians like to talk, but then there's a lot of other things to take into account. Boris Johnson was due to announce that the phasing of ICE petrol diesel vehicles was going to be reduced down to 2030. And I believe that was yesterday, but I can understand why he hasn't announced that, because he's got a lot of other things to deal with now. I'm glad you touched on air quality, because we actually implemented an initiative called Project Breathe back in August. We fixed sensors on 100 of our vehicles in central London and 20 fixed locations at our pickup shops, and they monitor 2.5 PM, which is the particle matter that comes out, emissions, tires, brake discs, all this type of stuff. And it's so fine. It's finer than human hair, and it can actually, penetrate the lung membrane. And there's studies suggesting that it can cause horrendous things like brain cancers and whatnot. So we are monitoring the air quality in central London using our electric fleet in these pickup shops. And we're at the moment talking to the mayor's office and the TfL, etc., to actually provide this information to them. And it's a group initiative. DPD is a European-wide business, and we've already rolled Project Breathe out in Paris, Madrid and Lisbon. And in Lisbon, the information and the data helped shape some of the planning by the local government, to prevent hotspots of pollution, etc. So, it's a big thing. We're rolling it out in Birmingham in January as well. So, this, and we're not charging people for this data. We're doing this because we're utilising the resources we have in the area to actually provide information to make, the air quality better in that area. So, really important piece, really. And actually, that's probably one of the most proudest things that I'm, I think it's amazing to be able to do that and to give it free to try and help local communities have better air to breathe. So, really important.
That's absolutely fantastic. In terms of the 2030X phase out, etc., we were lucky enough to have Natasha from OLEV on a previous Electric Insights, who talks about the challenges they're trying to balance in terms of that. But I think that announcement is relatively imminent, we're told, but we don't know when exactly. We'll find out what that's going to be. But fingers crossed, it could be sooner than some people might expect, but we will find out. I'd like to just leave you to sum up, Olly, on a final kind of question. And why do you think it's so important for delivery companies to become more sustainable? Now, I noticed you're a man with a very global focus, just judging by the wall behind you. Very important to you. And apparently so is Australia. By the look of that, seems to be a very bright colour on your map. But why do you believe that delivery companies must become more sustainable?
I think it's not just delivery companies, is it, James? I think everyone needs to make a difference. I'm at an age where I've got an 8-year-old daughter, and this was one of the truly motivating factors of moving into this position. Sometimes you read the news and what's happening, and let's face it, the news isn't typically all smiles and happiness. sadly. And you read that, and this is even before COVID, and I just thought we need to make some changes. And I was representative on our working group, our CSR working group for the network, and that's one of the pathways that I came into this position. And we've been advocates of electric delivery, using electric vehicles for some time now. We were probably a little bit slow at first, but DPD, I always say, we don't run marathons, we sprint them. We when we've got our mind set on something, we deliver. And like you touched on, we hit our 10% 5 months early. But we really need to push it. And with the fourth box that we've implemented, the UK's leader in sustainable delivery. Well, leaders, it doesn't mean about conquering all the other people in the industry. It's also, we want to be ahead of everyone. We want to be the best, but leaders show the way, and hopefully, and I know other people are doing certain things, but, we need to move forward. We need to shine the light ahead so people can follow that. Yes, at the moment, typically the vehicles cost more, but we can make it work, and we can, and that's another thing. The cost, the upfront cost of the vehicle is more, but actually the running cost of it is typically cheaper. So when you look at the total cost of ownership, it isn't actually as far off as you think, and that's where people get very hooked up on the outlay of the original cost of the vehicle, not the other side of it. So that's something else that people should be looking at. But it's just really important to make our difference. I want a better future for my daughter. I'm sure people want for theirs, or for people that are a bit younger than me, they want a brighter future as well. And we need to make the difference. It's within our grasp, and we can't just keep looking at or putting it off. This is why I actually do want Boris Johnson to say 2030. Is that great for the business? Well, it's going to be a challenge, but if you don't put your flag, in the sand and sort of state a specific date and be ambitious about it, people are just going to let it drag on and on and on. We really need to push this. The time is now for change, and we're showing people that that's possible, to the point where we've actually put out that we will deliver zero emissions, 25 towns and cities across the UK by 2025. So our fleet will not be 700 vehicles. We're talking about close to 4,000 EVs in the next few years. So, people have got to be ambitious and be brave. We're not going to sort this out by, not really being ambitious about what we can do. We push it, and then hopefully with that, more people do that. There's more pressure on the government to put through legislation. There's more pressure on vehicle manufacturers to provide availability to these vehicles. There's more support about rolling out charging networks, and we need that pressure, and then we'll get there, hopefully in all of our lifetimes.
Fantastic. Well, Olly, thank you very, very much indeed for your time. I have no doubt you are extremely busy for some of the reasons you've alluded to. So thanks again very much for your time today.
Thank you, James. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.